Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
It's post time. Dig deep, people. Betting windows are closing.
Wow, surprising. Folks, this is what happens to Democrats when they get even the slightest bit of scrutiny from the media. They're just not used to it. I'm amazed that Welker actually asked him about the Somalians because they failed to do so during CNN's softball interview. Tim Walz's response to Welker's question will drop your jaw. And not just because he blames Trump, which we all expect him to do, but because he says something that I don't even think he realizes makes him look like an even bigger fool than putting tampons in the boys' room.
Well, speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. There's a reason Minnesota ranks as the top lowest childhood poverty, best place for children to live. People are taken advantage of, they're going to prison. That is totally disconnected with demonizing an entire group of people who came here fleeing civil war and created a vibrant community that makes Minnesota and this country better. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud.
Excuse me, what? First of all, it's way more than $1 billion. Second, Tim Walz is legitimately stupid. First, Welker asked him something like, do you take responsibility for the massive fraud perpetrated by Somalians on your watch? Then Walz responds like, it's not just Somalians, but basically everyone defrauding Minnesota on my watch.
I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals.
Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person?
He always has this dumbfounded look, like he just came out of cryostasis and has no idea where he is or what's going on.
I must apologize. He is an idiot. We have purposely trained him wrong, as a joke.
It is just wild to me that Minnesota just changed their state flag to look just like Somalians, and then Somalians stole $6 to $8 billion from them.
It's not just Somalis.
And Tim Walz's only response is just more woke orthodoxy that brown people good and white people bad. The fact it's not just Somalians defrauding Minnesota on your watch isn't the defense you think it is. I mean, come on, how naive do you have to be? This is what Somalian politicians are just saying out in the open.
madaxweynaha Soomaaliya madaxweyne Xasan Sheekh Maxamuud inaan maanta ku soo dhaweyno Minneapolis aniga adeeraan ugu waxa asigana gabarteeyo idaha.
Coming into the States, everything from the snow to, you know, the housing.
So what state did you guys land first of all?
Kansas
City.
Of all places, yeah.
Interesting.
To deal with as a person of color, honestly,
yes.
or a black person.
Congresswoman at the Shane.
Yeah.
See that I saw the Bahanay.
Somalia.
labaatan haysano oo xildhibaano kala duwan of course ilhaan umarna noo tahay xildhibaanadeena federaalka noo fadhida gobolka Minnesota ka socota xildhibaano ilaa gaaraya dhowr iyo 10 runtii oo dhinaca siriga iyo state-ka ba ku fadhino marka urur baa sameeysan anagu waa isku xirnaa runtii qol baan isku jirnaa hadafkeenu wax weyn ka wada hadalno xaaladaha waliba Soomaaliya saameynaya waa dalkeeni wixii marka hadafkeenu waxa runtii anagu isku duuban inaan u laabi gareyn karno dalka Soomaaliya.
I just can't stop thinking about the fact that under Tim Walz, Minnesota changed their flag to be just like Somalia's, and then they lost $6 to $8 billion to Somalians. And all he can do is blame Donald Trump for supposedly doing nothing, even though Donald Trump wants to deport the people causing the problem. Democrats' immigration policy is a suicide cult. Let me know what you all think in the comments, and if you're still here, might as well hit that like button and subscribe. I do post on a regular basis, so make sure to keep checking back for more. Thanks a lot.